and came back to Shippers Council that look, this, he said, okay, don't worry. There's nothing, we will sort it out within the agency level.
Okay. All right. So a very important point that you've made, and you've given us a very full background. But you see, NPA decides to do what it wants to do. I want us to treat these scenarios as just neutral developments in terms of things happen. Our interest is the consequence, the ripple effect. If I am a freight forwarder, I'm blaming Shippers Council. Pure and simple. Because Shippers Council, you are supposed to be looking out for me. I hope you get the point I'm making. I'm just giving you a sense of, because you want to build your brand. Your brand is taking all sorts of hits, and chances are that we don't seem to radiating our brand equity. They are just happening. That's the thing about brands. A reputation over time, it just forms. And we think that it happened at that last moment when someone pushed it or tipped it over the precipice. No. So things have been building, and then we just got to that apex. So the point I'm making, you've made a very important point. Shippers Council did take action, but in the final analysis, when you look at it critically, if I am playing in this port economic environment, the summary of what has happened was that I did not see anything. This is where communication is coming in. I did not get anything in terms of a narrative that would have come to me from the port economic regulator on this. And the overall summary was that of silence. Now you could have worked behind the scenes, but how was that translated? Because we are talking brand and perception now. The issue now is perception amongst your stakeholders. That's where I'm going to with this. Could we have, because as I said, I even had to call a few of my friends in the maritime press. What happened? Why? I mean, Shippers Council was quite silent on this. The question is, do you think with this particular scenario, Shippers Council could have acted differently? Not in terms of NPA did what it did, beyond your control, but what could you have controlled better as a public relations unit, as a communications unit, to ensure that your brand did not suffer for another party's decision within that ecosystem? Could you have done anything differently? Let's talk about it. Like what?
For example, I think I was from a meeting.
Okay.
After meeting
With the stakeholders. Okay. So we could have gotten that out.
Where all the stakeholders were being invited to the first council. And the NPA came, they explained their position, why they had to increase the tariff, which is 25%. And the NPA man, I was in the meeting, I covered it. He said, when he get to his boss in the office, they're going to discuss it with the boss, where a meeting will be held with the chief executive order or the maritime agencies. That was what the man said, the representative of the NPA.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. What could we have done differently with the benefit of hindsight? Yes.
Like this issue, the NPA, by the time they want to send most of the safe house, they already use innovative, and from when they are selling this, why they want to increase the tariff. And secondly, they've already used some certain examples that, okay, these are the things they've already used learning process from other agencies. Why did they increase their own? And they've already built all these things into their claims, why this thing must be increased. And because Shippers Council, let me just be neutral here. Because Shippers Council wants to be able to say, you can't do this one to my people. You can't do this one to my people. But when you look at why NPA want to do some certain things, and you know that it is on the right proportion that they want to do it, because I want to use two things because two tariffs came out at the same time. That is the NPA tariff and custom tariff. But immediately they go against it because both of them said it has never been increased for longer period. But the customs own has been it's just like a new one that was what to introduce give to the public. But the NPA have already used some certain innovative, they've already used a learning process before they can be able to say, okay, this is why I want to do this thing. Then we now look at it and now say, okay, if this thing is justifiable, so people are against it, which side are we going to do? It looks like a crisis.
It is a crisis. So the question you should ask yourself, you see, there are a number of things I want us to look at here. Number one is, what is your role in this entire space?
The role, the
Which
is to protect me.
Yes, that's what the law says you should do. Exactly. And so the next question is, to your stakeholders, the people you are playing to, the people you are serving, how do they perceive you? There are two things here. And so your role in this department is essentially to ensure that there is an alignment between your core function, your core mandate, and the perception. That is what gives you your identity or builds your brand. So that is our interest. And that's why no matter what happens within the NSC, Nigerian Shippers Council, when you are part of those conversations, your voice must be strong enough in making it very clear, because most times you get this misalignment. Things get done, eventually, it's almost like saying that, well, majority will have their way, minority will have their say, that kind of stuff. But the ramifications is where I'm going to in all of this. We can't stop NPA if tomorrow they decide they want to increase or they want to take any other decision that has economic implications. It might not be rate increase. It's true, they are the landlords. You are regulating within their space. That's the truth. You are regulating within their space. You're trying to, because the work that you're doing is bringing sanity into that space where there is always chaos, potentially chaos, all sorts of chaos, whether it's tariffs or what's it called now, damage to goods or services, delays, all of the typical problems that go with the business of logistics and shipping. That economic context is very volatile. Just like life is volatile at sea when it comes to maritime safety and security. You are the referee there. And so, making sure that the perception of you to the stakeholders that matter the most is in alignment, that you are an unbiased umpire. How many of us are football fans here? How many of us watch football here? I don't know if you are. Okay, let's say Arsenal is playing Liverpool. Two bitter rivals. You switch on your television. You see both teams. Who is the most important person? Who will be the most important person on that field? It's the referee. You'll be saying that this referee, this same referee, if it's someone that has built, that you have a bad reputation for, that you always lose whenever he referees, you'll be saying, this man again. And controversy. So the audience, the fans, keep one reputation. And invariably it sticks. Because that opinion spreads. Despite the fact that the man may have tried to be as unbiased as possible. That's where we are going to with this. Is to let you know that silence is also dangerous. Silence is also dangerous. Engage where necessary. Some things will happen. I'm going to come to you, sir. Some things will happen that you cannot control. We must accept that. We are communicators. That's why we have to be strategic. That is the value of strategy. That we don't have control over certain things that will happen, but we have control as to how we can respond to it and manage how it is perceived. So it's to ask ourselves and go back to the drawing board and say, what if another situation like this will likely present itself anytime soon? It might not be from NPA. It could come from NIMASA, another sister government agency.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Or it could come from even your ministry.
Yes, or terminal operators.
Or even from the House Committee on Marine.
Even from truckers.
Even from truckers. So you see what we're talking about here. So sitting down, maybe doing your meetings every Monday, whether in Lagos, Abuja, these are the kinds of things you must say, okay, so what if somebody, all it takes is for a legislator to get up and just say, I want to move a motion on an issue of urgent national importance. Nigeria Shippers Council, and they just start talking, and then when you watch Channels News at night, you see yourself there, free of charge. You are wondering, when did this happen? Do you have a strategy for those kinds of scenarios? You must develop a playbook, and I'm encouraging these units to adopt the playbook development strategy that carries a variety of scenarios. What it will do is that it will expand the thinking and the mindset of everyone on this team. Because you are fighting a battle where you have all kinds of actors who in a bid to protect their own interest, hamper you from delivering on your mandate. And by extension, potentially gives you a bad name before your major audiences, in this case, the shipper. So this is part of how I want us to look at it. Please, sir, let me come to you. You wanted to.
Sir, is it not possible for the Shippers Council to tell all the stakeholders before any agency increases their tariff? It's supposed to come to Shippers Council before doing that. The situation whereby they do not do that and then they increase the tariff, can Shippers Council tell the freight forwarders not to comply until the Shippers Council to tell them so far they are the regulator?
You see, that's a management decision. That's not your headache. Do you get the point I'm making in all of this? That's why I'm saying to you, you are in communications. A lot of the things you are called to manage are things that are beyond your level. In fact, they are things that you did not cause. But they have ramifications in terms of the image and in terms of perception. You don't know, there are some of the decisions might be internally made decisions. There are sometimes that decisions are made internally that are not necessarily, don't play out. They have what you call unforeseen outcomes that affect the image of the organization. Now, you don't have control over those calls. So don't bother yourself with that. What you want to do is that, okay, fallouts. Can we anticipate fallouts? Because I can tell you, even if as management, Shippers Council were to put those measures in place, there are always bad actors in every space. I need us to understand this. If we are going to be effective managers of image and effective communicators, there are always bad actors in every ecosystem. No matter how well structured, how well organized it is, even when there are ramifications, consequences, and penalties, there are always bad actors. They seek to shortchange that system, to stress test that system through various ways that some of us have not even imagined. So when these bad actors strike, the problem is they are usually fallouts. And those fallouts have reputational consequences. They have potential impact on our brand, on our names, on us as an institution. Some of these fallout can end up making us look irresponsible as if we don't know what we are doing.
More like weak.
Or weak. I'm sure sometimes you hear your stakeholders as a reference say that I don't even know what Shippers Council is doing. Question is, communication strategy must be a lot more proactive. A lot more proactive. You must think of all these scenarios. You will never get them 100%, but the more you think about them, the more elastic this unit will become. And so when tension, pressure comes, you know the concept of elasticity, it may stretch you, but you'll be resilient enough to rise to the occasion. So it goes back to the first point that I started out with, that the paradigm, our own paradigm must shift. If we are expecting MPA to do at least be a good sport, be a team player, MPA is in the business of MPA. You get the point I'm making? The same way all other actors, the same way you should be in the business of Shippers Council. Protect the shipper. That is your goal. That is your mandate. So that, ask yourself, do you have, in terms of image perception, if you were to be like a superhero with a cape, would they put Nigeria Shippers Council protector of shippers? Do you have that level of image perception in your sector? Do you have that level of image perception? But that is supposed to be your brand. Protector of the shipper as a port economy regulator. You do that. The functional side is port economy regulation. But the perceptional side should be, I use the word should be, protector of the shipper and protector of the Nigerian economy. That's your brand destination. That's your brand destination. But the question is, what is your current brand situation? Your brand destination is that you are the rescuer. It should be a case of Shippers Council to the rescue. Nigeria Shippers Council to the rescue. That's your brand destination. So there are two things we are looking at here. But your brand situation, we see that there's a gap. And we must constantly be working with this mindset. Are we protecting the shipper? Whatever happens, whatever comes out of this meeting with all of these people, whatever comes out of this, when the smoke clears after this tariff increase or whatever MP has done, will Shippers Council still be seen after all of it as they did everything to protect the shipper? And we saw it. And that's one more feather in Shippers Council heart into becoming that brand. That's why I said silence is dangerous. Because when you're silent, a feather is taken off your cap. When you're silent, in fact, in communications context, silence is often interpreted as complicity. I'm telling you, perception-wise, maybe they did this to us. You people did not say anything. What is that saying? What is that telling you? That they are part of it. So you must fight for your reputation intentionally. And that's another point I want to make. Intentionality is very crucial in all of this. Regardless, yes, your sister agencies, fine. Working for the same government, that's true. But you have clearly delineated sets of functions. So the goal for you would be, in all of these, okay, MPA, this is what you've done. We have a responsibility to ensure that our audience, in this case, the Nigerian shipper, perceives us as working in their own interest and protecting them. So this is the narrative that we intend to put out there on a consistent basis with ample evidence so that they get the sense that we're doing what we need to do. So that is the PR function. Elevate what your management does through the power of narratives. See, there are ways. Let me quickly give you, I'm going to just give some suggestions to you. There are ways the PR needs to function in an unconventional manner. Sometimes, to ensure that you're building that trust, even in the midst of a lot of difficulties. and thankfully, head of PR is here. These are suggestions. They are not conventional, but they help in some ways. There are some meetings that you can intentionally embed is one or two stakeholders, even though the meetings or the functions were not for them. It's a PR move. It's not a management move. It's talking to management. This, we know this, but you know what? I think it's a good idea. Because one, you then convert some of those stakeholders into your megaphone. To build your brand is not something you're going to do all by yourself. And it's not by our logos, the various things we print and adverts. And no, it's by organic human interactions, responses, and dealing with situations. Sometimes your story or your position can be better told because there were one or two stakeholders or shippers who were brought into a situation they would ordinarily not have been privileged to be in. But through the power of a strong PR unit, you're able to say, look, please, let's bring in someone, let's have at least one of the freight forwarders attend this meeting with NP or whatever it is you're trying to do. What it does is that it brings collective participation. You're not trying to build the brand all by yourself. The beneficiaries of your function are also playing a part in it. So it's got to be some unconventional thinking would have to come in. Please, sir, you wanted to say something.
No, I wanted to ask you to situate a situation. One, when you know, let's look at a little history about Nigerian Shippers Council. It was started in 1978. UNCTAD said, please, nations, go and start Shippers Council so as I can protect the interests of the shippers. And when it was started, they did their job diligently. Now, it was a military decision. In 2014, during the time of Jonathan, Shippers Council was made the Port Economic Regulator by Executive Board.
Yes.
Now, look at the scenario I want you to look at. There's one they call Stuart, Ship Owners Association.
Yes.
There was an infraction they did. Shippers Council went and said, no, you can't do this without having recourse to us. We dialogue over it. The next thing they did was to go to court, right? And the thing, I think up to now, it's still in Supreme Court. Just say you don't have that, right? Because you were not here. 2014 executive order is not
it's not a law.
It's not a law. It was an executive order. This thing Jonathan did without passing through the parliament. Now, again, I want you to look at the scenario where we are going into now. God willing, in the next few months, the Nigerian Shippers Council, the president will pass the law making the Nigerian Port Economic Regulatory Agency. Now, this thing has passed through the Act of Parliament, approved by the Parliament, sent to the presidency for assent. If the president assents it, now this is the first time ever Shippers Council will have authority to start
to enforce.
If this law is passed, nobody can challenge them in the Supreme Court or any court of law that you are acting on your own, because it has passed through the Act of Parliament. Now, the scenario I want you to see is that, you see, some of the time, the public relation unit, there are some issues that will come up. They will look back where they are coming from, look back at the law established them at any point in time. And that is what happened when Nigeria Ports Authority increased that time.
Yes.
He said
Shippers Council
knew that even MPA will go ahead and tell these people you think they are having this, don't have authority. Who get the authority to be Port Economic Regulator without passing through the system? So these are some of the issues the public, when they want to stand and react, does that with that's hindrance. But again, I want you to look at now. We are looking at Imperial Bill to be passed in the next 2 weeks. where do you think
Okay.
the public relations unit will now navigate?
Okay, navigate to.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. You raised a very important scenario. I also was aware of that scenario. I'm just being careful. I didn't want to raise it in our conversation because it can be sensitive at times. We know it's really more of an executive tool that Shippers Council has had to rely on. And then this matter, I think the issue is, I think it has come, that particular court case, I think there was a soft pedaling at some point.
Exactly, yes.
Because I think Shippers Council won the
High
case
Court.
at the and even at the one at Shippers Council also won at the appeal court as well.
Yes.
Yes, so I think at some point there was stop pedaling and all that. So these are some of the nuances that a communications team must manage. So here is what I'm looking at now as we anticipate the future. But then let me also put this out there. Think about it with regards to the strategic question I asked earlier on. What if that law does not get passed? What if?
We're in Nigeria.
I'm asking you. What if? What if? This is how you must think. As strategists and as communicators, that's what strategic communication is about. What if it's not passed? Could it be possible that there are people lobbying for every legislation? There are those lobbying for and against. What happens if you're putting all your eggs in that basket? That is scenario one. I just want your mind to think that way. That's why I threw in that question. That's the only way you stretch yourself and think out of the box, become innovative in doing your jobs differently beyond giving out press releases and responding because something has happened. What playbook do you have for another 4 years of remaining Port Economic Regulator by executive fiat? So you know, that's why I mentioned earlier on that you know that the players in your ecosystem are big fishes. They know their onions. They can create pain. They have the means to play in the press, to use the media and whatever it is to cause you a world of pain. So how prepared is the PR unit to engage, to be a step ahead? You must know your problem customers in this ecosystem. From terminal operators to freight forwarders, who are your you must have a list for them that this party was there. Potential, don't be surprised if something is in the media in 3 days' time. So you beat them to it by leading a conversation on tariffs. You see, when you lead a conversation on tariffs, if the intention was tariff-centric, what it does is that you are setting the agenda. But if you then wait, they strike, we all start running helter-skelter. Isn't that what we do? We start running helter-skelter. So I'm just saying that in response to your question, I'm not going to give like a very direct answer to say do this or that. But I'm going to come back to challenging the thinking. When you have the thinking, you will give yourself options. If the law is passed, it strengthens you. But again, the law could be passed and execution, which is not your responsibility. Remember, you don't have any managerial execution function here. You're dealing with communication. If the management does not execute things in a manner that strengthens you, how do you handle it? Communication-wise. We are managers of outcomes here. Let's be clear. That's why, with reference to his question, what can Shippers Council do? I said, no, let's bring our minds to. Our problems can be created from within, in as much as most of them are coming from without. That's the truth about it. So we have to stand ready to manage the reputational side, the communication side, and part of it is being proactive about it. So part of being proactive is not to overhype the issue. In case, what if it doesn't get passed? How does it leave us? Where does it leave us? So we are not driving at the political side of getting the law passed, but we should remain focused on what should be the function. Look, Ghana has a Shepherds Council
Yeah.
and it's functioning
Correct.
quite well.
And it was modeled
No,
from Nigerian
absolutely.
Council.
So clearly we are behind the curve. So my point to you is to continue to drive the kind of narratives that puts you in that role with or pending the arrival of the law. There are times when people do things and the perception is higher. I'll give you a typical example. There are people that come into the organization, they work so hard, they put in their best, they do so well, they become so well known, and then you ask, in the minds of people, it's as if they've been there for 5 years, whereas they've only spent 1 year. Can you see that the perception is way higher? That's their brand perception is way higher than the actual fact on ground. So I'm saying that you have to drive the narratives. What are all those your wins in the areas of successful arbitration and resolution of port economic matters must be front and center. So I'll give you an instance. I went on your Instagram page. I was there 1 a.m. this morning. I just curiosity. So let me go to Shepherds Council. Let me just check. Because the world, so much is going on. And I checked from beginning to the end. I did not see a port economic regulatory, your port economic regulatory victories. And I'm sure there's a lot you have done.
They have done.
I did not see what I saw. And I'm saying this as one who has worked in the same space. And looking back at the lessons, because they say hindsight is 2020. That there are things, adjustments we can begin to make. Yes, because it's a government space, first order of business has to be that we project the set man, the chief executive, give him airtime, give him prominence and all that, because the standard perception or reasoning in the political ecosystem is that if he's seen or she's seen, work is going on. Create that bandwidth, designate it, and tick that box. But the crux of the function of the media team, the communication arm of the agency, is to drive the narrative based on the mandate it was set up and hand the value outcome, because that is what builds the reputation of Shepherds Council. So I checked, I was just checking, I thought I was going to see some freight forwarders, not just in interactive sessions, real narrative. You need to convert those wins into narratives that people can understand and relate with. I watched the last episode of the program Shippers. I saw that you had a segment for complaints. What's it called that you resolve? That segment lasted for just 35 seconds. There are things we can begin to do. Show faces, show scenarios, make it more real, so that the concepts and the value of a port economic regulator in terms of the outcome, how it transmits or translates into economic benefits. Those are the real narratives that stick. Create space for chief executive visits, people courtesy visit and all of those things and all that happen, because the government space, many people come in every day, is always busy. But part of this team must be looking for your wins and materializing the narrative in a way that is clear and easy to appreciate, and ensure that they occupy media space. I just took your Instagram page. I went through everything from beginning to the end. Everything. I saw events. I saw a lot of the staff maybe speaking at one event. I saw all of those. All of those things are good, but they are activity. You now need what I call productivity-oriented narratives. What that will do is that it has its own way of contributing towards your brand destination. Because, put it simply, Nigeria Shippers Council is the rescuer of the shipper. That's all. You are it's very simple. In fact, the mantra should be Nigeria Shippers Council to the rescue. Like a Superman wearing his cape. That's what you are. And that's how you build your brand. What is a brand, by the way? Brand. Marketing 101 is simply a promise. That's all. Your brand is the promise that you are making, that you've communicated, and that you are committed to delivering upon. And as you deliver on it, you communicate it. And that strengthens your reputation. And over time, that's your brand. That's what it is. So we must manage this situation to ensure that there is a proper functional alignment between what we are delivering and how we are being perceived. So what ways do you think we can translate some of our wins into natural narratives that can be out there? And if you do that, I can tell you your Instagram page will probably more than double, because those will be real scenarios that people can engage with. Because as Hassan Bello used to say in those days, that we are all shippers. Once you put something in an envelope or whatever it is, you order something that it comes to you. Everybody is a shipper in one way or the other. So what ways do you think we can do that? How many of you have been to your Instagram page here in recent times? Someone is smiling there. That means she hasn't been there. You have. Okay, show of hands. How many of you have been to your Instagram page? Let's count. Let's take a census. Head of PR, so at least get to see your team and see what's going on. Okay, so let's say out of, maybe let's say 30% or 40% of the group. How many of you have watched your TV program on YouTube? So how many of you have tracked the nature? Am I wrong with what I've just said about your Instagram page?
Right.
So I saw. So in what ways do you think we can? Because you're the ones on this job. I can't really picture in full concrete sense all the issues you address. For instance, you said we had 6 complaints. One of them had to do with demurrage. Another one had to, what does it mean? It does. I get the point. It doesn't stick. The point I'm making that what does it mean? It's just like data, some information. But could you translate that into much more concrete narratives, storytelling?
Yes, sir.
That particular segment, if you can reimagine it and make it weekly, it's a good start. It's at least another component that helps your brand, because it's appealing to your ecosystem, those that need to know. Yes, please.
So I think we should just do like a turnaround, concentrate more on that, because that's the stakeholders we're dealing with. Then I think the other activities, you can now make them like more of tidbits. Okay, the ES executive visited these places. Then we'll now tell that less time, and then concentrate more on that instead of giving the personality story of the ES. I think the stakeholders' interactions should be more like our focus.
Absolutely.
Because they are the ones that will now sell us out.
Absolutely.
They will
Yeah.
sell us out. They are the ones that will interact more and said, we're able to deal with this. So if they are able to deal with this, that means I can take my complaint. If they are able to settle out these people, that means I too can. So it shouldn't be just that tidbit small session. It should be more time should be dedicated to it. I think, so let me just give you this story we had in Kaduna. There was this black eye beans issues that we had from Kaduna to Dubai. You understand? It was a lengthy negotiation. But the good thing about it, even though it wasn't given prominence, is that at the end of the day, they was able to reach a compromise that Shippers Council stepped in, and then they was able to negotiate it. So for me, that was like a victory.
Victory, yes.
You understand that if we sell it out, people will know that yes, okay, we are working. If they can sort out this, they can sort out for that.
Absolutely.
Just more time for this.
Your wins.
Yes.
Put out your wins out there.
I have more confidence in you too.
Yes.
The more wins you put out there, the more it strengthens your brand.
Yes.
Nigerian Shippers Council. This is a council designed, put in place by law to protect the shipper. And it does that through regulating economic activities within the port system. That could work, and it's something that you should figure out a way to put across. Yes, please. Please.
There was a time in one of our TV programs that we had a stakeholder whose issue was resolved at the complaints unit. And given his remarks, he said, when you have an issue come to Shippers Council, they will always be there to help you.
Yeah.
They were even praising Shippers Council for not collecting the times. So I remember that week after the program was aired, because we used it in Article 70. After the program was aired, the ADPR, that's our head, brought it to our knowledge that I don't know if it is a TV station that was saying that it's an advertisement, that that's an advertisement. So we'll have.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
How dare they? You've paid for your airtime. There's no way. How dare they? It's not even done.
That's why I told them
Okay.
we have to obtain a certificate for advertisement before we put anything like
Anything that
advertisement.
has to do with
Okay, is it from APCON and all that? Okay, it's not as if, well, maybe APCON has evolved, but I don't think, well, I did quite a couple of those during my time in Nimasa, and then nobody, yes, you paid for your airtime, but you can do whatever you have to
Now,
do.
that we should be
No?
careful on the narratives because some of the statements can be advertisement statement. And
No, if it's a testimonial, if it's a testimonial,
it's supposed to be a testimonial, but the argument that was saying, come to Nigerian Shippers Council, come and work. So it's the narrative that they are.
well, the beauty of it is that if that is a challenge, I don't think it's really much of a big deal if it's an advert. I mean, you can on your own recognizance get APCON to give you that approval. Those things don't cost much, maybe 35,000 or whatever. I'm surprised, maybe these are new things, because during my time, we used to do quite a lot. We were creating promos. I was writing art script to promote quite a number of things for Nimasa then internally, and it never came up. So I would think maybe it's a recent.
You know, we're not supposed to collect anything from the program, like money. But they feel that if you future somebody like that, it means you are collecting something from them.
Yeah, unfortunately, which is, but whereas what you're doing is you're promoting.
On Apple. The percentage that you are collecting money.
Yes, that's the thinking. Maybe that's because I think there's a drive for revenue,
Yeah, exactly.
and so they're really recreating or redefining a lot of these things. But then, of course, if that is now the rule, because they do have a say in terms of regulating that space. I don't think it's anything too significant. But the key thing is, let's just push out our narrative. Now, in terms of the content, it's important, provide adequate bandwidth for the chief executive that covers his activities. And at the same time, tell your stories more. And because those stories will help define, since that is our interest here, it's to help define and shape the brand, shape Shippers Council from being an entity into having an identity. Because right now we're essentially an entity of government, an agency of government. But the goal is to evolve into one with an identity. In other words, we identify with shippers. Shippers identify with us across the strata. And in today's world where there's so much e-commerce going on, I think that Shippers Council can actually mainstream the value of the fact that we're all shippers. I know Isaac Bello used to say that a lot. I thought that was one way I got to appreciate Shippers Council. That you can be the one, in fact, it's your responsibility by law to mainstream the concept that we're all shippers. Everybody is affected by what Shippers Council does economically. So everyone should have an interest in what we are doing and therefore help in building that into a brand. So the concept of shipping and all its values, which of course goes beyond waters anyway, should be you owning that space as a brand in the hearts and minds of Nigerians. That is when we actually arrive at that brand destination. But the thinking within this current situation must be such that it's more strategic and our effort is driven by this sort of ideas. And so every time we're going out there, before something happens, if it catches us off guard, our response goes beyond the original, typical, stereotypical way of let's do it this way. We can turn it around. We can turn it into a story. It's not too late to tell your own narrative of the NPA episode. In fact, now that everything has cooled, this could be a time where there is mental space and bandwidth where you could then come out and drive a narrative of yours that can stick with people. And then keep in mind that because the world has become so discontinuous, you are an organization of government, an agency of government that is built to function as an incumbent. You know the concept of incumbency, which is very traditional and which is you can predict, so to speak, because you're comfortable, you're in charge, you determine things. But you must now begin to think with some sense of insurgency. Why does insurgency last? Why is it such a challenge militarily? It's because traditional armies fight based on traditional principles. Insurgents don't have any rules. They redraw the map. They take the battles to places which is non-conventional. They pop up here and there. So you need, and I'm going to, head of here, I'm going to appeal to you, ma, to encourage a little bit of insurgent thinking, not in the sense of irreverence, but thinking out of the box to do some things. With social media, and you have a TV program, a TV platform, you can reimagine the TV program. When I got into the master, one of the things I tried to do was, why can't I have interviews on a boat? My first set of interviews were on our vessels. I realized that a lot of people in the master had hardly gone out to the waters. There were so many things I imagined, just that my schedule, my plate was so full. I thought of ideas where if people come to visit us, they should live with fresh fish because it's maritime. Do you know the PR that will do? That what we're giving our guests is fresh fish picked out of maybe somewhere in or what have you. It's just we're giving you the maritime experience. You see, let me tell you, that will make news faster. That will trend more on social media. Quicker. We have to think out of the box. Why? That is solidifying your brand, giving the right picture. Oh, these are shippers. So everybody is into shipping. Those are the kinds of stories. Sometimes we used to think that, are you crazy? What? I said, look, you need a bit of this insurgent thinking, because this is a government establishment. The space is pretty much established in nature. But if you're going to break out a little bit, you need some doses of this once in a while. So it's to really challenge that thing. And I think that's, for me, is the major argument I bring to you today. To say, as public relations people, we must be very strategic. We must shift the paradigm. Because aren't you tired of people just ambushing you every now and then over issues, especially bad actors? Sometimes it could be somebody who decides maybe they wrote a proposal and the means was not there to satisfy them. And the next thing, some news is flying around and you have to do cleanup. So it's time to get ahead of the game. That's the point I'm making to all of us, to think creatively as well, and within the structural accommodation of an agency of government such as ours, we can make some good creative progress. So I want to begin to wrap up. Do I still have more time? Okay, good. So, by now coming into some of the skills that each person, everyone around this table needs to have, we must also develop ourselves. We must develop ourselves, and very intentionally. Now, number one, I think I had my notes, just a second here. So I'm going to read through some of these skill sets that are necessary. Excuse me. So we've agreed and we've made the point that a brand is a promise. And for you, your promise to the shipper is that we will protect you. We will always have your back. And exactly. We are like the Superman in our cape, NSC at the back of it, coming to the rescue. So if you're being bullied by a terminal operator or what have you, and then, or for some reason you're delayed, and then your shipment defaulted into demurrage, and all of those things are piling, and it's about to sink your business. Shippers Council is that knight in shining armor that swoops in and says, no, I'm the defender of this universe, so to speak. And the shipper knows that they've got our back. So that is incentive for them to keep on driving their business. Because the more they ship, the more there's cargo accruals. And we know the ramifications of more cargo, even to us as a nation, in the International Maritime Organization. It's part of what counts against us when we go to IMO. We're talking about category C and all of these things. They look at those metrics. So your role is so important, such that if people now leave our port environment to use other ports, that's a loss for us. So Shippers Council must rise to that occasion, and we must communicate these winning narratives. So in terms of the kind of skill sets that I want to encourage us to develop, number one is strategic thinking. So let me explain. Strategic thinking at the personal level is instinct to just question. It's the essential element in every good journalist. I mean, the way we're taught journalism, you use your 6, 7 servants. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. The 6, 7 servants, 6 of them. Let's develop strategic thinking skills at the personal levels, and it starts by just questioning, what if? What if? You can do this privately, personally, nurture it on your own till it becomes a skill. You'll be amazed at how it serves you. Number two, the ability to read and absorb expansively. Let me ask, in the last 2 weeks, how many of us have read or are reading any book? Just a book. Let me see. How many hands up? All right, what are you reading? Tell me, sir. Tell me, what are you reading? What's the title of the book?
The Tracy Stiller.
The what?
The Tracy Stiller.
The Tracy.
System leadership.
Okay, the Tracy. That's John C. Maxwell. Okay. What about you now? Somebody is Purpose-driven life. That's Rick Warren. Rick Warren. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, Atomic Habits. I forgot the guy's name now. It's a self-help reference. It's a very popular one in recent times. So what I'm saying is, please, you don't need to be an exhaustive, fantastic reader. Just, even if it's just 2 pages every day, the quality of your self-development is going to rub off on the quality of your production at work. There's no magic to it. And one way to ensure that is to start by reading. It could be anything. It could be a maritime themed material. It could be something that is business related. It could be a motivational reference, whatever it is. Develop it, because what it does is that it expands the mind. You see, the best communicators are those with expansive dispositions, because they can relate, they can sit in any scenario mentally. And so if they are to drive communication narratives with a pen and paper without thinking, they can either craft a script or do a memo or do a press release and set the direction, the news peg, the direction of how we want this to be done. So please make out time, read, because the exercise value for the mind is very significant. And we are the thinkers for the organization. Let's understand that we are the thinkers for the organization. And there are things that my principal will want to do, and I tell him, you can't do it. I tell him, I'm sorry. You will do it, but not that. That was the way I work. And maybe because I had enough of that latitude, because I was practically railroaded, and we were very close. And I'll tell you, I said, because I'm not ready to spend the next 1 week trying to beat back or manage the fallout. And it's going to distract you. You still have this and that and the other. That was the level of leverage that I have. I know it's not the same for everyone. I understand that. But it's our function. I understood that was my responsibility as well. And I said, okay, if you're going to do it, or let's put it this way. Let's tweak the headline a little bit. Just to give us, let us lead it before it happens. That's what that strategic ability gives you before it happens. Number 3, your writing skills. It's so important.
Listen, please, like what the second one you're talking about,
Yes.
reading.
Yes.
You see, there is, in our school of journalism, they will always tell you, for you to be a very good journalist, you must go and read other disciplines.
Yeah.
Because you may see a lawyer and you have not read anything about law. You don't know much about law. You can't ask him a question. And if you ask him a basic question, he will now navigate and go to a higher pedestal that you will not even be understanding what he's saying. That is why the emphasis is that you go on, read the trade laws. The trade laws are, you read international shipping laws. All these things will help you so that at any point in time, there's a crisis, you will know how to navigate and you know how to respond immediately.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And that is so profound. In fact, it should be taken for granted that should be induction level material, so to speak, at its most fundamental, because you have to communicate. You have to ensure that the words or the message is out there. Then the third one has to do with writing skills. Well, I'm going to say this. We all have to continue to develop in this area as much as possible. But you can't write well if the first two areas have not been developed. Because you'll be end up writing for formality. You're writing to get a particular line of messaging across. And to strengthen your writing, your vocabulary must be strong. Again, how do you get strong vocabulary? By reading. By reading and utilizing keywords. In your industry, for example, your registers are very important. How you use them. The question that I would love to ask is, it's so easy to say, okay, those people, those of us in PR, we are not the core shipping professionals. That's not true. That should not be an excuse. You must know everything. When I joined the master, I had to read up on these things they call Incoterms. I had to read up. I was reading, my case was a problematic one. Why? I was yanked from the School of Eloquence and engrafted into the highest level as an advisor on strategy and communication. So I had to rely on my consulting background to draft the strategy for my friend who was the DG then. And I actually did it when I was outside because I said, I can help, but from outside. I'm not coming in. But when they drafted me in, goodness me, after my first week, I said, well, you will not be able to cope if you don't read up. I was reading. I had to start ordering maritime history. You will see my library. I was ordering books, dictionaries, oceanic terminologies. Because I could be in a meeting, they say, all right, I said, now give us a brief. And then I'm using what? Terminologies that belong in the market there. So I had to read. And not only was I reading, I was making sure the guys, I had designated staff in the Marine Environment Management Department, in shipping development. I will summon them, I will invite them. All right, talk to me. As they're talking, even though they're giving me a brief, but the journalist in me was asking questions for my learning and development. That was how I caught up. You must develop a strategy that works for you, that enables you to quickly come up to terms. You must know everything. Those, whether it's the terminologies and the modus operandi. How many of us here have been to the ports? How many of us? 1, 2, 3, not every one of you. You should go and walk at least, even if it's just go there, embed yourself, have a feel, breathe in the air there. See how these all transactions unfold. I am telling you, it will shape the way you put the narrative out. That's why you see journalists, they want to go to places. They want a tour, they want to do a tour, they want an on-the-spot assessment, or just get on the plane, get on that helicopter, see what's going on, because when they then write the stories, they immerse you in it. Please, you are the port economic regulator. You must know what those ports look like. You must see what the freight forwarders are going through. You need to go there, at least have a whiff of it. It will shape a lot of things. It will. That experiential dimension will make it very visceral and to make a lot of a difference. I talked about your writing skills. Then you must also develop your speaking skills. Very important. You must become a dynamic speaker. Because you can be in a place and they are saying things that may not be directly picking out Shippers Council, but ramification-wise, you know you should weigh in. That's not the time to be silent. That's the time you get up. And I can tell you, in 5 minutes of speaking, you can paint the finest picture of your organization into pure brand value in the hearts and minds of people. That's how powerful the art of speaking is. Effective oral communication. You must develop it. Learn it, whatever it is you do. All of you here must be good speakers. You can no longer hide behind your memos. You must. You cannot be in the communication arena and not be able to speak effectively with confidence and explain, boil down what it means to be a shipper. What does it mean? For instance, Nigerian Shippers Council, when I was just really looking at it, I came to the conclusion that the Nigerian port is like, what, Old Trafford. Arsenal versus Man United. And MPA is the referee. That's all. If one party, Arsenal could be the freight forwarders, and Man U could be terminal operator. Oh yeah, lock horns. We do business. So if one person, like in football, you commit a foul, what does the referee do? He blows the whistle. An infringement has occurred. I need to restore balance. That's Nigerian Shippers Council. In analogy terms, you must be able to explain who you are, what you do. So Nigerian Shippers Council, who are we? Oh, what do you guys really do? You start, if it's a speech, think of a football match, we are the referee. Or think of this ecosystem, we are the umpire. But please, your ability to speak very well is very important. Next is your ability to interface with artificial intelligence. The world has changed now. Your ability to interface with artificial intelligence. Now, let me be clear about this. There are people who talk about AI taking our jobs. I like what a young lady said recently online. She said, no, AI will not take anybody's job. It is people that know how to use AI that will take other people's jobs. I was very impressed with that statement. Please, when you are online, don't get too carried away with all the social noises and all the crazy content. Somebody wake up in the morning and because, the way they went to bed, they just begin to post themselves. And before you know it, before noon, it will have over 10,000 views and all that. Scan through all of those. You're going to meet, especially on LinkedIn, where people are really making meaningful contributions, adding meaningful value. You're going to see a lot of that. So, your ability to interface with AI. And the principle behind artificial intelligence is very simple. We, the humans, are the originators. AI is the generator. So, the original ideas coming from us and using AI to generate any additional. We do not abandon our responsibility to AI. Recently, of course, I teach public speaking and I coach quite a number of people, quite a lot of top people, even in the maritime sector. Even after I left, I went back to the school of eloquence. And so there was this day, one of my students, very senior person in one of the agencies, was preparing for a speech. He had to represent his principal. And so they sent me the speech. It was written by the PR unit. Don't worry, it was not NSC. It was written by the PR unit. And I took the speech. As we were practicing and tried to help him prepare, I said, hold on. I then assessed the speech for AI. I realized that 70% of it was written using AI. Now that's an abuse. So practically, there was no input. So AI was no longer being used as a tool. AI was being used or being abused as the staff, as the speechwriter. I kid you not. So that's laziness. And there's no way you'll be able to respond to this larger crisis when we get to communication crisis. If, as a communications person, you're not developing your capacity. If your principal, I believe you write speeches for your, does this department do you do some speech writing as well? This unit, do you do some speech writing? Or sometimes, okay, if they want, okay, PR can do the speech. So part of what you want to do is sit down with the party involved, let them articulate in very clear terms and help them refine from a communication standpoint. Because it's not everything that should be said in the way it is said openly. And that is your duty as gatekeeper, which is one of the functions of media, of communication, of journalism. You're the gatekeepers. People think gatekeeping is only about what we should prevent from coming in. Part of gatekeeping is also what we prevent from getting out. So you can guide. And there are steps, there are procedures for guiding principals or parties, lead parties who are giving speeches. So you can use AI to support the original intent. Understand the principle. We humans are originative. AI is generative. Do not reverse the role. Do not see the original responsibility to AI. It's just maybe you go to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, give me a speech. You can imagine if I had gone to use AI, I would have just been reading from, and then we'll be reading, okay, I have my paper. I would have given you paper now up to 20 pages from AI. But we are still the originals to make the conversations meaningful, productive, and impactful. So AI should be used intentionally towards clearly set goals, used as a tool. So you can't run away from it. There are people who are trying to avoid the use of artificial intelligence. It has come to stay. The same way when Google showed up and we were worried, you mean you just do a search and everything will come out, and we got used to it. I am sure within the next 1 or 2 years, we'll all be using these tools to provide us the necessary support. We as communicators must be leading the charge on the cutting edge of the use of these tools. Then the next skill that we must develop has got to be our interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills will serve our ability to cut across departments and understand what is going on rather than always waiting. Interpersonal skills is purely relational capability. Why? Because you constantly need information, you constantly need perspective, you constantly need intelligence to guide how you prepare materials and to give you a good head start. Please, PR unit, do not operate in your own echo chamber. Go across the directorates, have friends, colleagues, interface regularly so that you can constantly have a good feel of real issues going on, not rumor-driven content within the organization. You know what I'm talking about. There are things you all get to know almost immediately. Those are rumor-driven content. But more functional information and awareness must come through how we interlink. Swing by the other department, the other unit, get a sense of what's going on. And then your interrelational skills with the media is also very important. Please, let the media not just be when it's time for your press release that you're circulating. I think we should strengthen that handshake. There are maritime journalists that I met that were just so exceptional. They were very serious-minded. They were not interested in personality stories. Those were the easy ones. Please, when can we see the DG? We want to interview him. And you're asking the DG the questions that the answers are readily available.
Answer 3 days ago.
That the PR unit or the marine environment unit could have provided you. But I met a few journalists who said, look, I want to do a special report on this aspect of pollution and what NIMASA is doing. That was just so I met journalists like that, but there were few. And you also must orchestrate. You can orchestrate and encourage 1 or 2 journalists that have the depth to explore this. Exactly. You can orchestrate. And then they do it, and that forms part of what you feed into the ecosystem. In fact, you can have the journalists help you with some research-related work that gives you the content that you can use. And then another skill is your ability to create short-form video content that can tell the stories of the seas. This is now a necessity, given the kind of media space that we are living in. Who is your competition? It's not your fellow sister marine and blue economy agencies. Your competition is all of that business out there online, making it difficult for people to even watch your program, The Shippers. You see it probably have less than 100 views. After how many, 6 months, and what have you? Because those views, those eyeballs are going elsewhere. And you can't keep producing that program the same way. You've got to find short form content. Your ability to create those things, they are very important. Take your camera team somewhere in the port, create something that people can relate to, and put it on TikTok. Put it on all these platforms, and then thankfully, one of the interesting and exciting things I found out during my time in maritime is that there are 1,001 WhatsApp groups. And once you send it to one, everybody in the maritime sector gets to see it. Do you know? Think about this. Dear head here, think about this, madam. Do you know that using those sort of short forms with a clear plan every week over the next 3 months, just circulating it across all those WhatsApp groups? A lot of journalists have their own. I'm sure I'm on some with some of you, just that we don't know, have each other's numbers and all that. Just the shipper. Maybe the shipper becomes, you can evolve it from just being a TV, the name of your TV program, into it becoming a person, an embodiment. It could become a character. That will stick more, faster. Give it a form. And then you tell the stories around it. It requires thinking. It requires a different approach. Because the world we live in now is so discontinuous. We can't keep up with this crazy digital world using the analog framework that most of us government entities were built on. We can't. It is changing. So we need to lead the conversation. We need to tell our stories that define ourselves before others define us. Because every day, the circumstances in the port economic environment is defining us whether we know it or not. So we need to get ahead of it, to define ourselves. Have a list of those your victories, convert them to clear narratives. 3 minute short forms. Put them out there. and sell yourself. Consistently, it will change the perception within that group because those are your stakeholders. So these are some of the things that I think they are low-hanging fruits in terms of skills, mindset, and approach that we can have and begin to nurture. They are low-hanging fruits. We can invite any of these people, these younger people to come and maybe coach you as a group through how to do some of these things. We must do that whether we like it or not. Even though some of us have, we are like in our 50s and above, and then we see what is going on. This is the world that we are in. Our stories are being told behind our backs. And trust me, they are not telling it the way it should be told. And we can't lift our hands up in despair and say it's not fair. We need to regain the narrative. And I'm sure that NSC gets coppers posted. Some of these coppers, if you have them posted, get them into your units. Any coppers here? No. I'm sure you have some. Get them into your unit and begin to saddle them with some of these things. You'll be amazed at what they can give to you. And they are within the system, so it will be compliant. But that fresh take will unveil a dimension. You'll be amazed. Send it to the executive secretary, send it to all the directors, just move it around. A fresh take, a fresh dimension. Because that is the world that we live in. So I want to encourage us with this. Sometimes part of it is you catch your ES unawares, tell him to say one or two things, you catch a stakeholder unawares, you mix it together, you send it out, it goes viral. Oh, Shepherds Council, they are carrying us along. It's just, these are, because a brand is not a product of just one singularity of effort. It's not. It is an amalgam of effort, initiatives, vigilance all over. We're making sure that the bad actors are not being mischievous. We're staving them off. That's true. We do that, but then there's space. We fill it in with positive material so that we are leading the telling of our stories and we stay the course. We stay the course. We get creative and innovative. Okay, this is happening and all that. Yes, we don't need these stakeholders to be a part of it, but let's surprise them. Please come and sit in. It will be nice for you to see what we are doing. And then you just sort of build all of these things together cumulatively. The world has changed. The structured approach is failing. The structured approach to what we do is failing because there are too many insurgents out there. Ask the Nigerian army, they will tell you how long it's taking for them to adapt, to even contain the insurgency. They have to do things unconventionally. So we are living a battle between the incumbents, we are the incumbents, and then the insurgents. The factors happening so quickly beyond our control. We must adapt. We must remain incumbent with the mindset of insurgents. I think that will be my last words to you. Thank you very much.
Please, can we give another sound?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
When I had to control him, because if you allow him, you'll be here 1 o'clock. He's never tired speaking. And you don't doubt why. He's the proprietor of School of Eloquence. So you need to control SN when he's talking. And he can engage you, you will never be tired. Because I know if it is ordinary message, some of you should have been feeling like dowsing now, but you are never tired. SN, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We didn't make a wrong choice.
Thank you.
Bringing you to come and speak with our thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much, man. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay.
Please, if you have.
Actually learned a lot, and then you said something about us having a book
playbook. Yes, for various
I think
scenarios.
that is something we will look into and then make sure we do. Thank you very much.
And scenario.
Scenario.
Yes, scenario painting, yes. Serious. What if questions?
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, thank you.
What if this happens? What if this thing doesn't happen? And then I think that will bring out the best in us. We're very, very good.
Glad to hear
Thank
that.
you very much.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
wish all the best.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I'm Martina Pere New Beach from Nigerian Shippers Council South Zone Coordinating Office. The retreat so far has been so eye-opening, and especially today's topic from the Mr. S.M. Ubong, eloquent speaking, has been so eye-opening. It has impacted us positively and have given us a guide on how to go about being an emperor and a lot more. We appreciate it so much, and we wish to have more of this kind of sort of training. Thank you.
Madam dear Susan Shahoma, and the training was very insightful, very engaging. I learned a lot in terms of the importance of actually shifting my mindset from doing things the regular way to actually thinking outside the box. It was a very interesting class for me, and I would say my biggest take home is the fact that we can actually do things differently. Even though we might have been used to doing things the conventional way, we can actually make a decision to do things in a different way and still get better results. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ogugbemi Idowu Samuel. A big thanks to the facilitator who has impacted knowledge. We've been encouraged to set a timely goal to drive the council's image, and also to shape the public opinion by setting a strong agenda for the public. We have also been encouraged to invest in improving some of our skills, which has to do with speaking skills, writing skills, and also to ensure we improve on our capacity to timely delivery of public relations services. And according to him, he said it is time we look at the opportunity in harnessing, the greatness in the strategy of public relations, that is relying on some platforms to drive the council's goal and to also ensure we sustain mutual understanding with the public. And there are some means and strategies to do that, which has been highlighted. And trust me, as a result of this great discussion, we'll take it and we'll implement it so that at the end of the day, we achieve a strong goal, a strong image with the public, and also improve on the council's reputation. Thank you.
My name is Zainab Momon Blakos, Public Relations Officer, Kaduna Port Office. I enjoyed today's lectures. It was very interactive. Personally, my take home is the dynamic shift, how we think from not the normal thinking we always think every day, thinking of something new, what we use to sustain the image of the council, and how to that sustainability of the image. And also what I also took was what if, the question of what if, always sitting down to think, what will happen? Thank you.
And we have the national anthem. In brotherhood we stand, Nigeria so proud to serve as sovereign motherland. O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build the nation
there no man is oppressed. And so with this and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Thank you. You may be seated. For 2026, we are looking at the smart port routine. And a smart port is tech-driven. A smart port will rely on robotics, AI, and other modern tools that will limit human interface, human presence, and more of machines. But we don't need to be afraid, because anytime we discuss smart port, the union will think workers will lose their jobs. No. If we migrate to having a smart port system, I'm optimistic that it will create more jobs for smart people. And I believe that Nigerians are smart. We've seen people with Nigerian certificates go out of this country and serve as the best of doctors. We've seen people with Nigerian certificates go out of this country and serve as the best of engineers. So I can tell you that maritime stakeholders, maritime scholars in Nigeria can also perform optimally within and outside the shores of Nigeria. Mr. Chairman, I hope I've been able to keep to the 10 minutes you gave. I want to, on behalf of my colleagues, welcome you all to the 6th edition of the General Entity Awards.
Private sector operators must invest in innovation and efficiency. Regulators must embrace transparency and data-driven oversight. And industrial practitioners must commit to continuous learning and adaptation. As we deliberate today, let us remember that a smart port is not just about technology. It is about efficiency, transparency, competitiveness, and national prosperity.
I want to tell us a story. This is my personal experience. I was impressed when the chairman was talking about why is it that in Nigerian ports and logistics environment today, institutions, government agencies cannot work 24 hours. That is what we want to establish today. Can the system work 24 hours? What is the implication of not working 24 hours? In Nigeria today, freight forwarders, shippers, pay for services that are not rendered. Why? Because from 8 a.m. to about 4 p.m., most offices close, government offices close. Some, NAFDA, including my agency, CRFFN, and the rest. Customs, I think I'm impressed with recent reports that even in Think and Hear that they have started working even weekends, but not 24 hours. I don't know if they have started working 24 hours. You're almost there. Please be quick and get there. Very important. It's very important because smart ports requires 24 hours operation. Logistics is time bound. It's also cost bound. Any delay in logistics translates to cost.
He said the model that if you are not too familiar with the port, look at what it's meant to say. What I just said is the issue of malpractices. Tells us what I do have not been addressed. So the question back to the important smart port. If the issue of consistent source of energy, not the one we see today, where the operators are acquiring a source of energy, the cost of doing business in the port, or cost of joining cargo out of the port will be high. Then talk about the costs. If some of the operators, shipping lines are depending on telecoms and they don't have a backbone, the aspect of system breakdown telecom. That's why custom have made every effort to abandon way for them of the server, use the backbone to support what they're doing. If not, they have a problem.
Because we have to address ourselves.
If we put these things in place, and we have been putting various policies and systems in place for so long, but in the end, we as operators, as players within the system must ask ourselves, what role are we playing to ensure that this works? That's one. The last thing I want to mention is that I've sat in this conversation and I want to appeal to Mr. Ismail Anim. I think that there are two parties that should be here that are not here. The telecoms operators should be here. If you're talking about the blue economy must go beyond just maritime thinking. Because you're discussing smart systems. All of those things must ride on the backbone. I'll give you an instance. 3 or 4 days ago, we just finished at the School of Eloquence a Guinness World Record attempt for the longest public speaking marathon. What is the problem we are facing? We're using all kinds of internet infrastructure to send videos, and 3 days.
When the speaker asked me if we are running it in 4 hours, what operations? I said almost. I said not yet, but of course, the system has evolved tremendously.
Yeah, for us, we have been in Amato. We sat down some 2-3 years ago already. You know, it's very difficult, easy to destroy, very difficult to build. We sat down and looked at, from our various engagements with agencies, government, MPA, NSC, even the CRFF. So we peered into the future and saw that, things cannot continue to go like this for our members. If we do not embrace smart personnel, smart association. So by that, what we have been doing or trying to do, for instance, we identified certain projects that will help us get on track to be able to fit into the smart ports, and not just smart port, like Thailand, it's supposed to be a smart maritime ecosystem. Because even at the level of dry port, if you do not also plan for a smart system, then you are going to have the kind of congestion that you have in the port now, around that place. I think the MD of Nigeria Railway, acknowledged that fact. I think some 2 weeks ago at the MPCC, meeting we had, that go to a Vitamin Tunnel, you will see. It's been a redeployment of the part of the congestion here, to that place, because there's no smart preparation, calling up, trucks into, that rail.
As part of Journal NG's contribution to the good and growth of the Nigerian maritime industry, we initiated the Port Industry Town Hall meeting. This is the 6th edition, and every year we pick a topic that will help engender the development of the sector. Like last year, we talked about 24-hour port operations. This year, we are talking about smart ports, and they are in sync. Those two issues synchronize, and it's meant for the good and growth of the industry. Because if you don't discuss it, you don't create the awareness. Policy makers, policy implementers, government people, those are the private and public sector, may not even key into this agenda. But if it's out there, the more awareness we create, the better for Nigeria. Green port has to do with environmental sustainability. Yeah, smart port is automation. Yeah, lesser human interface, digitization, and they work for common good.
They're not really much what we want. We want Nigeria to not only to be signatory, but to be active implementer of global conventions and treaties. We are asking the key port operators to remove their normal mentality of smartness, unquote, to approach smartness through the application and embracing the application of artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, in discharging their duties and functions within the port environment and maritime space. That's what I'm trying to say. Artificial intelligence to drive your process to think better. The Internet of Things giving you opportunity to, connect the world. Then the blockchain, having a platform that will make you work better than you are achieving. So your achieve targets. We are saying let our port be green. The United Nations is saying let us encourage, instead of dry port, let our port be green. That means if you come to your port, start planting trees. Let there be green atmosphere inside the port, so that the bolstering that comes and the emissions that come from a vehicle, the trees and the flowers will have the capacity to absorb it. If you are doing so, you're also helping to help the green evolution of United Nations. So we want our system to be driven by a green environment that is more healthier than what we have. Because if you're operating in a dry, highly carbon monoxide environment, there's an element of health risk involved. So let us also ensure that the ports thrive by adding value to our health.
The truth of the matter is the world is evolving. Technology is shaping the world. The way things were done in the 90s is different from the way things were done in 2000 and the way things are done today. So every system, every organ, every institution need to evolve with that change. Technology has brought advancements in our ports and logistic corridor. That change should also be adopted. Otherwise, the world will leave us behind. So every stakeholder out there, every government agency out there needs to know this, although it is not a new topic, but it is something that we need to now pay attention to, because the speed of integration matters a lot, so that we don't find ourselves struggling to meet up with the most current developments, in the system. So, yeah, smart ports is the way to go. Thank you.
The Smart Port and Green Port initiative is a good one. We are made to understand very well, for instance, that the federal government, under the leadership of the Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has provided the political will for this Smart Port initiative to come to light. And we are hoping that this would address fundamental issues around the port. I'm sure a lot of people have been talking about or hearing about the perennial port congestion. With the Smart Port initiative, that gridlock would be a thing of the past. All the hues and cries of truckers, for instance, talking about